A couple becomes worried when their once gentle cat turns aggressive, especially toward their nanny who claims the cat attacks her. Concerned for their baby's safety, they might need to give up their pet. When they discover the real reason for the cat's behavior, they immediately contact the police. Jason felt uneasy as he turned on the first camera. His wife Emma was nervous beside him, both feeling guilty about their actions, but they needed to understand what was happening. Milo was behaving like a completely different cat, and they couldn't understand why. They couldn't risk their cat harming their baby. "I hate that we're doing this," Emma said quietly, "but Hannah's been complaining for months. What else can we do?" The only solution was to place cameras around their home to see what Hannah experienced daily. They disliked secretly recording their nanny, but felt they had no alternative. As Hannah and the cat appeared on the recording, Jason increased the volume and looked at his wife in shock. They quickly understood why their cat wouldn't stay away from the baby. Emma watched, horrified, feeling guilty as she realized she was responsible for what was happening on screen. What they saw was frightening, and they called the police right away. Jason and Emma's life seemed perfect. They'd met after college, secured good jobs, were advancing in their careers, and had recently married. Everything was wonderful, except they both wanted children but weren't sure how to manage it. Emma didn't want to abandon her career to be a full-time mom. The couple discussed this often, but Emma couldn't see a solution. "I've worked so hard to reach this point," she told Jason one evening. "I don't think you really understand the dilemma I'm facing." The only compromise she would accept was working part-time for a few years so she could maintain her career while being a mother. But a problem remained. No one could watch their child when both were working. Their parents worked too, making that option impossible. The couple needed to decide quicker than expected when Emma began feeling ill. She thought it was just a sickness. After several weeks it persisted, and she felt constantly tired. She took a pregnancy test from the bathroom and waited for the result. Her hands trembled when 2 positive lines showed. She wasn't certain if she was prepared to be a mother yet. When she informed Jason, he was excited, which somewhat eased her concerns, but now she felt pressured to find childcare. Jason wasn't the only one pleased with the news. The couple had adopted a cat when they moved into their house, and Milo had lived happily with them for years. She was the most affectionate cat either had known, and she seemed to detect something was different even before Emma started showing. The loving cat would softly rub her head against Emma's stomach. Once the bump was visible, she'd sit on Emma's lap and rest her head on her belly. "Look at her," Emma smiled. "She already loves the baby. I think they'll have a wonderful connection." Emma was thrilled about her child and cat having such a close relationship. She never thought the gentle cat would change at all. As she announced the happy news to family and friends, she didn't dare mention her plan to return to work part-time. They wouldn't understand what her career meant to her, and she was determined to balance work and raising her baby. But the pressure grew too much, and one day she confessed everything to her best friend. She was just 2 months from giving birth, and though her boss had agreed to reduced hours, she still hadn't found anyone to care for the baby when she wasn't home. Surprisingly, her best friend had a solution. Emma's friend suggested Hannah, a family friend's daughter seeking nanny work. Emma phoned her immediately and arranged a meeting. When she told Jason, he wasn't happy. "I don't know about having a stranger in our house looking after our baby," he frowned. Emma was angry since he'd refused to reduce his work hours. She stormed into their bedroom with Milo following, slamming the door. The cat curled against Emma's bump, purring. Later, Jason apologized. "You're right," he said gently. "It's selfish to expect you to give up your job when I'm not willing to. I promise I'll stop working late. If you want to hire a nanny, I trust your judgment." When Emma met Hannah, she asked many questions. Hannah had perfect answers, childcare experience, and offered to cook and clean. Children thrive on routine and loving care, Hannah explained. I'm happy to help with household tasks, too. Emma arranged a trial period and asked for references. Hannah provided phone numbers, but Emma couldn't reach either previous employer. This seemed strange, but when Emma went into labor 3 weeks early, she had no time to worry. I have good instincts, Emma told herself. Hannah seems genuine. I think we can trust her. The young woman liked to believe she had good judgment. Hannah had appeared enthusiastic, polite, and willing to help in any way, so Emma decided to trust her intuition. When she returned from the hospital with her daughter, Sophie, she messaged Hannah saying her trial could start the following week. The young nanny immediately replied that she was eager to meet Sophie. Emma was in a happy bubble and felt nothing could break it, especially as she gradually introduced Milo to Sophie. The cat reacted just as she'd hoped, showing the baby love and affection. Soon, wherever Sophie was, Milo wasn't far away. When Emma lay on the sofa cuddling her daughter, Milo would join them. When Sophie was in her crib, Milo would lie beside it. They couldn't be separated, and Emma was happy to see the bond they already shared. But everything changed when Hannah arrived. Milo normally didn't mind strangers. Being such a calm cat, she handled everything well. But when Hannah arrived, the cat ran away. Emma was sure it was just a lot of change for the little cat to process, so she wasn't worried. She'd adjust eventually. Hannah just laughed it off. Don't worry about it, she said cheerfully. Cats usually run from me. They probably smell my 2 dogs on me. She'll warm up to me soon. Meanwhile, Hannah immediately began proving herself. Emma tried not to interfere too much. She wanted to see what the young nanny could do. By the end of the week, she was amazed. Hannah was caring and affectionate with Sophie, and the whole house was spotless. Hannah couldn't do enough for them, and Emma had never met anyone so polite. Her mind was made up. Hannah had the job. On her first day back at work, Emma felt nervous and unsure if she was making the right choice. Sophie was in her crib with Milo nearby as always. At least her daughter had a little guardian, Emma thought. Milo had been acting strange since Hannah appeared. If she'd thought the cat was attached to Sophie before, it was nothing compared to now. She wouldn't leave the baby alone when Hannah was around. Emma was sure the cat would calm down, but just 2 hours into her workday, she received a worrying call. Milo had attacked Hannah for no reason. Mrs. Wilson, it's Hannah. I hate to bother you at work, but Milo scratched me pretty badly. The young nanny assured her she didn't need to leave work. She was just a little shaken, but would be fine. She explained that as she'd reached into Sophie's crib, the cat had hissed, growled, then scratched her. Emma was horrified. Not only was Milo's behavior toward Hannah unacceptable, but the sudden change was very concerning. What if she was a danger to Sophie too? Emma would never forgive herself if the cat hurt her daughter. Maybe it was time to stop Milo from being with Sophie so much. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. That night, when Emma got home, she couldn't say sorry enough to Hannah. There were clear scratch marks on her arms, but the young nanny just dismissed it and said it was okay. She was used to scratches from her active dogs, but as time passed, Milo became a totally different cat. Neither Jason nor Emma could figure out what was happening. They deeply loved their cat, but if there was any chance she might harm their daughter, they couldn't keep her. Whenever Hannah was present, the cat would be hostile, and when the new parents tried to keep Milo away from Sophie, the cat would cry and walk back and forth, clearly distressed. No one knew what to do, but the first incident between Hannah and Milo wasn't the last, and soon Emma was getting almost weekly reports of the cat hurting the nanny. I don't know what to do anymore, Emma cried one evening. I can't stand the thought of giving up Milo, but what choice do we have? One night, Emma sat on the couch and started crying. Getting rid of Milo seemed impossible, but what else could they do? When Emma was home, the cat was just as peaceful and loving as ever, and her worries would start to fade. But then she'd see how Milo acted when Hannah arrived and hear the nanny stories, and all she could think about was Milo sleeping next to her daughter and then hurting her. It didn't seem likely and certainly didn't match what Emma saw of the cat, but Hannah couldn't be making it up. Emma had seen the scratches herself. As Jason comforted his wife, an unusual solution came to mind. It wasn't exactly right, but it was the only way they would discover what happened when they were at work. He was also having trouble with the idea that Milo's behavior had changed so much, and giving away the cat was the last thing he wanted to do. "What if we put up cameras?" he suggested, "just to see what's really going on when we're not here?" At first, Emma strongly rejected the idea. They couldn't record their nanny without her knowing. But as Jason explained that it was either this or taking Milo straight to the shelter, Emma realized she didn't really have a choice. Jason told her that once they'd seen Milo's behavior on camera, they would erase the footage, and Hannah would never need to know. Reluctantly, Emma agreed to the plan. She felt uncomfortable recording Hannah without her knowledge, but it was the only way to see Milo's behavior for herself. Part of her wasn't sure she wanted to see her beloved cat that way either. The next day after work, Jason came home with some small hidden cameras. They would place one in the living room covering the whole area and another watching Sophie's crib. They just hoped Hannah wouldn't notice them, or they'd have awkward explaining to do. The next morning, the couple went to work, leaving the nanny to do her job all day. They worried about what would be recorded, so as soon as Hannah left that evening, Jason opened his laptop and looked at the living room camera footage. They'd prepared to see Milo in a different way, but were not prepared for what they saw. When Hannah appeared, Jason turned up the sound and watched as the young nanny took out her phone. She answered a call, and her language was shocking, not to mention what she was saying. The young woman had been so well-spoken and polite around them, but now she was cursing and making fun of Emma for being foolish enough to give her the job and pay her so much. "You should see how gullible this lady is," Hannah laughed into the phone. "I do the bare minimum for the kid, tidy up right before she gets home, and spend the rest watching TV, and she pays me so much for it." During the entire call, Hannah bragged about doing the bare minimum to care for Sophie. She simply quickly cleaned just before Emma got home, spent the rest of the time watching TV, and is being paid well for it. But it wasn't just Hannah's confession that shocked them. During the call, Hannah walked around opening drawers and cabinets, putting any money or small valuable items she found in her handbag. Milo entered the room and watched as Hannah continued stealing things. As the protective cat started hissing at the nanny, they saw Hannah roughly push the cat away with her foot. "Get away from me, you stupid cat," she snarled. They looked at each other in shock, but this wasn't even the worst part. Jason pulled up the footage from Sophie's crib, showing Sophie crying and Milo snuggled next to her, gently rubbing against her arm as if trying to comfort her. Suddenly, Hannah entered the room, cursing and yelling at the little girl, and Milo jumped up in front of the baby. As Hannah reached into the crib with an angry expression, Milo puffed up and swiped her paw at the nanny's arm. "Shut up, will you?" Hannah snapped at the crying baby. "I'm trying to watch my show." The couple was horrified. Milo's behavior had changed, but the loving cat never meant to hurt their daughter. She was protecting her. Emma felt overwhelming guilt wash over her. Hiring Hannah had been entirely her idea, her solution to their childcare problem. Now, as she watched the young woman roughly push away the cat again, she couldn't stop thinking that if they hadn't seen this footage, if they had simply believed Hannah's lies, the nanny would have been the one to hurt their daughter, not the cat. "How could we have been so blind?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Milo had been so angry and protective because she saw what Hannah did each day and tried desperately to stop her. The cat they had almost given up on had been their daughter's guardian all along. As Emma continued watching the heartbreaking footage, feeling each moment like a knife to her heart, Jason reached for his phone with shaking hands and immediately called the police. "We need to report abuse," he said firmly into the phone. The next day, there was no Hannah to care for Sophie and clean the house. Emma had taken emergency time off work and was cuddling her daughter and her beloved cat on the sofa, holding them both close. The sunlight came through the windows, creating a warm glow across the three of them. The footage had been given to the police, and Hannah was being questioned. Everything she'd stolen was being held as evidence, but the couple was told they would eventually get it all back. The money and possessions didn't matter to them, though, not even the antique watch that had belonged to Jason's grandfather. They were just glad Sophie was safe, thanks to their protective little cat. "I feel terrible," Emma said, stroking Milo's fur as the cat purred contentedly. "She was trying to protect Sophie all along, and we almost got rid of her. I can't believe we nearly punished her for being brave." Jason could see how guilty his wife felt, but he blamed himself too. If he hadn't been so stubborn about his career, they would never have needed a nanny in the first place. He knew exactly what he needed to do to make things right. That evening, he hugged Emma and kissed his daughter's head as he explained that he'd spoken to his boss and reduced his hours. "On the 2 days you go to work," he told Emma, "I'll be home to take care of our daughter." He looked at Milo, sleeping peacefully next to Sophie, the cat's protective paw gently resting against the baby's side. He gently scratched behind the loving cat's ear and silently thanked her for watching over Sophie when they weren't around. With Milo by her side, the couple was confident nothing would ever happen to their daughter again. Did you like this story? Who would you trust more? Your faithful cat suddenly becoming aggressive, or the nanny showing you her scratch marks? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. When a devoted pet suddenly dislikes someone, perhaps they're noticing something you're missing. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you in our next video. Have a wonderful day.